Hey everybody, welcome back to this podcast Takes Tokens. I'm Ryan with my brother Deric, discussing all the things we love throughout our lives. Icebreaker question for you today. I had a long drawn out thing the way I put this last time, and I think it was like I don't know. Basically it boils down to this. I'm gonna do my best
distilled it.
to make these icebreaker questions just a little more condensed. So what horror movie do you think you'd be able to be in and survive?
Oh, that's funny. That's exactly how I rephrased it in my notes.
Yes.
Yes. What do you think you could be in and survive? I like that. So I gave this a lot of thought. Like, this one I've given probably the most thought. I was trying to come up with a good, clever answer.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm thinking, like, there's easy ones. Like, I could say maybe Jaws, and I'll just stay out of the water. I mean, that's pretty simple. It's an easy way to avoid the problem there, right? Blair Witch Project. I don't go camping, so I'm going to get a hotel room, and that's not an issue for me either. Child's Play. I mean, come on. You just crate that little guy up and put him in a cremation machine. You're done. Yep. Not a problem. I don't understand why that movie was so long. But then there's some hard ones like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I like my sleep. I'm not gonna lie. I like my sleep. That's gonna be a problem for me. So not Nightmare on Elm Street. Tremors. I've never really been good at the game Floor is Lava, so I feel like I would not be very good in that one either. Mostly any movie where you have to outrun the killer, I'm probably not going to make it in. Not that, like, I'm not a fast runner. I just don't like to run. So I'm going to choose to turn and fight in most cases. And in most cases, I imagine that's not going to go well. Although there are some, like Jason, that you really don't have to outrun so much as just get in a vehicle and drive away from, because he just walks. And that seems like that's pretty easy to get away from. But my pick is Zombieland. And just purely because then I could meet Bill Murray, and those zombies seem like they were pretty easy to kill. Yeah. And all I gotta do is get a snowball, and my partner's happy. So. Yeah. How about you?
That works. I thought the same thing with a lot of those. Like, I was like, initially I was like, Child's Play. Because what do you do? I'm just going to throw him in the fire. That's what they do at the end of the movie anyway. And he burns. Like, done. Yeah. Absolutely done. Right? How is this thing so threatening?
Yeah.
And there was, I don't know, there was different ones that went down. I thought, like, Gremlins is kind of a horror movie. And, they're more, like, mischievous than anything. But yeah, I came down to the movie. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It Follows.
Okay. Nope, never seen it.
It's a good movie. It's about, like, this creature that takes on the form of, like, anything, and it follows you, and once it gets to you, it'll kill you, and it doesn't matter how far away you get. It's just a slow, steady walk, and it will look like a different human or whatever, and it just keeps walking towards you. And the only way that this happens is through I don't know really how to say it PG, but through an adult interaction between a man and a woman, and it gets passed on. It's kind of a metaphor for, like, an STD, the whole thing is. And then so whoever has it passed on to them has to then pass it on to somebody else, and the thing just keeps following whoever has it next. So, lesson in life, just remain abstinent, and you're safe this whole time.
Or faithful.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yep. So, I don't know. That was my answer. I thought it would be pretty easy to get through that. I think I could do that one.
Yeah. I mean, if it starts following you, turn to your wife and be like, what's going on?
Right?
It wasn't me.
Right? Yeah.
But,
anyway. Yeah.
That sounds like a good one. Yeah, it'd be pretty easy to avoid for sure.
Yeah. So
I think this is more like what's the easiest loophole to exploit in a horror movie?
Exactly. Now, maybe sometime I'll rephrase this question as, you are going into the movie blind and not knowing, what your out is. But that's for a different episode. So. Anyway, get in the comments. Let us know what your answer would be to this. What horror movie do you think you could survive? We would love to read it and say it on the air. So that's it. We're going to get rolling. After the credits here, we're going to... Or the credits. After the opening theme song. There we go. We're going to get going into our movie. We will see you in just a minute.
Just a minute. Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters because this podcast takes tokens.
All right, here we are talking about my, I guess a hint I had with the icebreaker question. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. Released June 25th, 1982. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, starring Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, and Keith David, along with another cast of other great characters in this. It's just I didn't say them because they're not quite as big of characters as those three are. Budget of $15 million. Deric, do you want to guess how much this earned?
Oh, I don't think it did quite that well. I'm guessing around 40 to 50 box office total.
No. 19.6 million. This was pretty much a flop.
1980s horror movies, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. This is what a lot of people attribute the failure of this movie to. Do you want to take a guess what came out 2 weeks before this movie?
1981?
82.
82. Couldn't tell you. I have no idea.
E.T.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you've got E.T., a
another
friendly
thing that
alien.
E.T. ruined.
Yeah. You got a friendly alien in E.T., and then you've got this murderous alien in The Thing, and I think most people are like, I'm going to take the friendly one.
All right.
So that's what I'm guessing. Didn't do well in the box office, but clearly, after all these years, it has become a definite cult classic. There are videos galore on YouTubes or wherever you get your videos from. People are theorizing on this and analyzing it. I've watched 2 videos now that are like 45 minutes long that are, I mean, not this week, but I've watched them, in my
your time.
Yeah, my time. That are theorizing every little bit of this. And every time I rewatch this movie, I find something new that I hadn't seen before.
So we're not talking about the 1951 version, are we?
No. That
okay.
John Carpenter based this movie off of that. I actually looked at the synopsis for that. And it's fairly similar, except it's more so this scientist finds this UFO crash landed, and he gets the authorities to come over there. They're like, I don't know, Air Force or whatever. And they show up, and then through a series of mishaps or whatever, the alien becomes unthawed, and then it starts wreaking havoc. But I think it's like The Thing in that movie is clearly like The Thing.
A Thing.
Yes. Like in this,
it takes form.
Oh my gosh. You have no idea who it is or what it is. And this is the first time you'd watched this movie, am I correct? So what did you think of it?
Honestly, whenever I'm watching this movie, my first big thought was, I wonder if this is what they based the game Among Us on. Because this is very much so that game. Just the game is set in space, not on, an Arctic tundra or whatever.
I think that they did. I think that I think the creators of the creators of Among Us had to have
it's too similar
this as a template. Yeah.
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 But, other than that, like, it was a little... Well, I mean this in all the nicest way I can say it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little slow, but that's just how movies were back then. You didn't just jump right into things like we do now. And so it stands out whenever you go back and you watch a movie like this, because the beginning will often be a very long shot or a long sequence or a long scene, usually in a horror movie or a suspense movie or drama. Very little dialogue. You're just kind of setting the tone for the movie, as it were. And the whole beginning thing with the helo and them hunting the, Swedish or whatever guys hunting down the dog. Yeah, the Norwegians trying to hunt down the dog to kill it. First of all, why didn't you just land the helicopter and take a steady shot? He's trying to take a shot off the edge of this helicopter the whole time. The helicopter's like swinging around and flying through the... I'm like, just fly out in front of it, land about 100 yards away,
pow,
take your shot.
Yep.
Like, I don't feel like it's that difficult, but, it's a movie. We got to make things difficult, but here we are.
Well, look at how they, they're terrible with a grenade. They can't even throw a grenade.
Yeah.
It's
or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but then, it starts out, and I've never... So, Keith David is an actor that I've always enjoyed. He's kind of a, I don't know what you call it, like a that guy or whatever, somebody that you see in things, and you're like, oh, yeah, it's that guy. And I've never seen him in something this far back. He had to have been, 25 or something. He was so young.
Yeah.
But I could say that about the whole cast. I mean, Kurt Russell, even Wilford Brimley looked like. Yeah. I mean, he looked like Wilford Brimley, but he looked like he was
Wilford,
50, not 80 or whatever.
Wilford Brimley. Yeah.
Which at this time, 1982, he was. Well, he's probably 50 at this time.
Yeah.
But still. And lots of other ones. The one that I've been racking my brain on is the chef guy, Nollis.
Knowles, yeah.
Knowles, yeah.
Where have I seen him from?
I can't remember where I'd seen him.
He's got
before.
that face, like that.
He's
guy
got
face.
I'm like, that guy looks so familiar. I can't place him. So I go on his IMDb and I'm looking at everything and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's just got it's probably some little bit part somewhere that I just can't make the connection in my brain with. But I went through his IMDb and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but there's just he just looks very, very, very familiar, and I just can't place it. It was bugging me the whole time. But yeah, it was good for the time, but I feel like with a lot of these older movies, if you're watching them now, and especially if you're a film fan and you've watched a lot of things, it feels a little... I could see why they'd want to remake this. I feel like it could have been done a lot better. But, you've got... who's the director on this one?
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter, yes, thank you. So, John Carpenter, at the time, he's not huge. He's not small, either, by any feat. But he's starting to come into his own. I believe this is one of the movies that he came into his own on. And, so it kind of tells that this is from I don't know, I don't want to say less experienced, because he's very experienced still at this time, but, I don't know, I guess it just shows of the time. It's a little slower paced, it's, a little more thoughtful, they're not explaining every single thing, but then, again, there's a lot that they just don't know and can't explain to the audience because the characters don't know, and that's kind of part of it, is it's mysterious. And if you explain everything about these alien creatures, then you're going to remove all the mystery from them, and it's not going to be as suspenseful, it's not going to be as scary. And oftentimes that's what kind of takes the power out of a horror movie, is whenever you over explain the villain.
Absolutely.
And they lose all their power. But, like I said, I enjoyed it. I don't know that I'll go back and watch it again. Although I do want to watch now the sequel or prequel or whatever they did, 10 years ago?
That one
I think I might go back and watch that.
It's always weird to me, I guess is for lack of a better word, that as much as I enjoy this, because I'll watch this movie, like literally this is one of those movies I watch annually at the least. Wow. Like sometimes I'll watch it twice a year. Wow. But I've never seen the prequel to it, and I need to fix that. Because it like everything that happened at the Norwegian base, like
is explained there. Yeah,
when McGreedy and Doc are at the base, and like that first room they go into, you see that axe in the wall or in the door. Like I guess that happens in the movie, and like that's explained, and like just the guy that had like cut his wrists and all, like everything you're seeing, like they hit on all that. So
that scene had some, like, for the whole movie had fantastic practical effects, and at this time I feel like practical effects in movies are almost unparalleled in this time of movies. Like they try and do them now, and a lot of times they don't look right. They look too, like they're going way too far. They're going way over the top. It doesn't work as well. These, I feel like, and they're probably not, but I feel like are a pretty accurate, realistic representations of what you would expect to see in a situation like this. You're talking about the guy that slit his wrists. That was incredibly detailed. Like the blood freezing from his wrists as it's dripping out and creating that long icicle down to the ground. That was chilling and very, very well done, I would say. Kudos.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the practical effects, all the special effects are practical in this, and they came out fantastic. They didn't go to like claymation or any, like it's all puppeteer work. It's all physical in camera stuff. And yeah, I'd say that it looks fantic. And I wouldn't even say for the time, I'd just say period.
It still looks good.
Special effects, yeah, they look fantastic.
I think even that the body that they bring back from the Norwegian base that's like was in the middle of assimilation, like that looks freaking eerie. Like can you imagine finding that and you're like, what is going on here?
Or the head that sprouts legs and then runs across the floor.
Yes,
yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. It's well done for sure.
Yeah, and I think I was it was probably one of those videos I watched on this movie. Because like I said, I like to watch other people's theories on this movie because like you're saying, like the information they give you is very ambiguous because the creature itself is ambiguous. Like, how does it work? What's, and I love, this is one of those movies that I love to hear people's theories on because stuff can just go everywhere. With it, I feel like. So the one thing that I was going to bring up, if you and I don't, but if you speak Norwegian, the Norwegian guy at the very beginning of the movie that's like out of the helicopter and he's shooting at the dog screaming. And he shoots Dennings in the leg, Bennings in the leg. He is actually saying, they just don't have the subtitles, that's not a dog, that's a thing, kill it. Oh, yeah. And so if you could speak Norwegian, the whole plot would have just been completely given away to you in the first 5 minutes of the movie. But I think that's a little nice touch. I like when directors do stuff like that. I don't know.
I don't know if that would give it away for you, though, because I feel like you come into this movie already expecting it to be a horror movie about a thing.
Well, yeah.
But you would definitely be like, why is he trying to shoot that dog? That part would, that would unravel pretty quickly. Yeah. Although I was kind of wondering that. I was like, why is he trying to shoot that dog? And then the dog ran up to the camp and he was still trying to shoot it. And I was like, oh, that must be like a carrier or something. Or he's trying to kill it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I kind of started putting two and two together. More context clues based on like I kind of know roughly what this movie's about, I suppose.
Well, and they keep like John Carpenter keeps like when the dog's before it like changes. He keeps zooming in on that dog, like any
Slow
scene that it's in, and so it gives it that like,
and it's always watching
not right
them
with this dog. And that
sure.
to me is the hardest scene of this whole movie to watch is when that dog gets put in the kennel, and the other dogs are like growling at it, backing up, and it's changing, and then the dogs start getting assimilated, and they have to start shooting some of the dogs. Like, I'm not like a crazy, like, Sarah McLachlan, like, animal, like, rescue or whatever. But, like, I don't like to see, like, innocent dogs or whatever just getting, killed. And that to me, that's rough. It's like, when you see, like, I don't know, Bennings getting assimilated, like, I'm just like, whatever. But don't shoot the dogs.
Yeah. It's like animals and kids. Anytime, like, there's, like, I don't... Yeah, not just, like, harm. Because, like, every once in a while, like, an animal will get knocked around, and it's like, okay, that's part of the movie. Mm-hmm. But then, like, with this particular scene or something like that happens where it's, like, very intense. It's, there's a visceral reaction from within that is like, oof. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the protector. Coming out. It's like, I got to do something. Oh, wait, it's just a movie? Let it go.
It's almost like, I think it's like, in this movie, it's like, well, those dogs, Clark cares for them, and he treats them, they're like pets whereas, I don't know, something like the only thing that's coming to mind right now, like The Revenant, when Leonardo DiCaprio is fighting that grizzly bear. The grizzly bear is trying to kill him, and like, whatever. I don't care about the grizzly bear at this point, but,
that's true. Yeah.
The dogs
in that
are like
situation,
a pet. Yeah.
It's like Child's Play whenever they start kicking that little kid around. Mm-hmm. He's a doll, whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's okay, though. But, so they start figuring out what's going on, and they start torching, like the dog scene. So they they're something's obviously up, and they kind of figure out that, I don't remember how exactly they figured it out, but they figured out fire is the best way to take care of it. And
so like the guy comes in
with it. I guess, yeah. And the guy comes in with the flamethrower, and he starts torching the dog and everything. Then they immediately put it out. Yeah. And I'm like, why wouldn't you let it burn a little bit longer? Just burn it out.
I'm assuming because they're trying not to burn down the building.
Okay.
So, all right. Because there are multiple occasions where, like, they're lighting... Now, well, I guess later when MacReady has to burn Norris because, like, the doc's trying to, like, revive him, and then the chest opens up.
He falls in, yeah.
Like, they come in there and they're getting ready to extinguish. He's like, no, wait, like, making sure. But I guess at that point, you're like, okay, like, we gotta weigh our, what's the best thing to do here?
I think at that point they'd figured out that not a single cell can survive. The whole thing needs to be destroyed. Which I'm like, then that's not enough burning. Like, it needs to be incinerated to the point that, you burn down the ash. Mm-hmm. And at no point did they get it to that point, I feel like. They burn it a little bit, and then they bury it in the snow. And I'm like, there's still...
You're just refreezing it. Like,
You're just... we still got a problem here. So I'm hoping that eventually, the government goes up there and just, like, nukes it or something, like, takes, napalm, I don't know, something, like, take care of that. But, so that was kind of like, why do they keep putting it out? I don't get it. And, but they kept putting it out. And they kept separating. Even after they figured out that it's, like, it could be any one of them, they keep finding excuses to separate. And I'm like, stay together. I know. Even towards the end, there's only like 3 of them. I'm like, there's 3 of you. How hard is it to stay together? That's not that hard.
You 2 go here and you 2 go here. Like, and we'll have the other guys tied up here.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's stupid. Like, even if they're tied up, like, surely it's going to find a way to, assimilate anybody else.
Which clearly it just, like, shoots out tentacles or spores in the air or whatever it's doing.
Yep.
So, but they keep separating. I'm like, y'all gotta stay together. Which they do that whole, like, and this was kind of genius on Kurt Russell's part with the testing the blood with fire to figure out, who's what. And they figure out who's what and everything. And I got to know, like, is there they just slice their thumbs open or their fingers or their hands or whatever?
This could be a better spot.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, they got to have needles or something there where they could just draw a little blood. Like, do we have to go to like carving our bodies up? Like, I don't know.
I understand.
It's just I don't like cuts on my hands, so that one kind of bugs me.
That was me too, because I'm like, one of the notes I had here, like, why are you cutting the thumb? Like, cutting an area that's going to hurt like hell every time you try to do anything with it while it's healing. Cut up on the arm, where or something. It's, it's got to heal, but it's not really going to, this part of my arm doesn't get much use. Like, it's, it's fine. Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Did you notice in that scene, and it's only done in that one scene, where everybody's eyes, everybody that's still human has a shine in their eyes, but Palmer does not. He's the only one that doesn't have a shine in his eyes.
No, I wasn't even looking for any difference in them. I kind of figured Kurt Russell was the thing the whole time.
Oh yeah.
Like, and he didn't end up being it, which it kind of like the whole movie leaves you on a bit of a cliffhanger. That's what I love about it. There's a bit of a sequel here that we could have. I mean, we're probably a little past Kurt Russell's prime for that, unless, he's the team that comes back 50 years later and torches the base, but...
yeah.
But speaking of the guys, like, with the exception of Kurt Russell, this whole cast has got to... This happens a lot at this time, 70s and 80s. This whole cast has got to be the most average-looking group of men I've ever seen.
Yeah. Why not, though?
Like, yeah. Like, Kurt Russell's the only one that's kind of got, like, a star quality look to him. Everybody else just looks like a normal Joe, average person. Going to, they could totally be working on this rig, and I would know no different. Like, I would, I buy them as... scientists or rig workers or whatever they are supposed to be. However, I went and I watched the trailer for the 51 version of this. They do not. They look like they belong in an office, not on like some scientist outpost station. They're all like in suits and like all buttoned down and looking very like polished and like even like the woman's got like a pencil skirt on, and I'm like, this isn't how you would dress in the Arctic.
No.
At like some scientist substation, even in the 50s. Like they would be in like long johns and like scruffy and big coats and everything. But they had them up there looking like they just worked at the office.
Right.
Just coming in for a shift.
Funny.
But so I had that in my notes. The Kurt Russell is probably, other tin Kurt Russell, this is the most average looking cast I've ever seen in a movie, and it works. I like it. I love it. Like it helps me to buy in completely into this movie for sure. I love though how Kurt Russell he really is the outlier of this group. Because he's the only one that sleeps. He doesn't sleep in the facility. He's got his own little cabin. He's got his own little bunk.
He's like their pilot, I love how he is with the computer in the beginning. Like literally, if you look at the screen, like he calls the computer a cheating, whatever, and then he dumps his whiskey in it. But it does cheat. It makes a move and tells him he's in checkmate when he's not in checkmate. Oh, I didn't even pay attention. Like he still had another move to get out of checkmate, but it's like checkmate. So that's why he calls it a cheater, and then he destroys it. And then when the Norwegians show up, and that guy that can't hold on to a grenade throws it behind him, blows up and everything, and everybody's running over towards this. MacReady still has his whiskey in his hand. Like this whole time, explosions are going off, guns you're firing, and he's still got his whiskey. And I'm like,
ascertaining the situation.
That's great. That's great. I like that about him. That just kind of gives you an idea of who this guy is. He's just...
He's a rock star.
Yeah, yeah. He's just here
absolutely.
For a paycheck. And, He's
a flyboy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everybody else is, they're doing the research. Well, I guess Knowles, he's the cook. And he's pretty free going, too. I like when he's... Bennings comes out and he's like, man, can you turn that music down? He's got Superstition playing, like blaring. And he's like, oh, sure. And he goes over there and he looks at the boombox.
Nope.
He just, nope, not doing it. And he's skating everywhere. I'm like, oh man, this guy is smooth.
Yeah. So what were they up there doing? They're just like a generic scientist
research station, okay. I guess. I don't know what they're doing. It doesn't ever. I
was just wondering, like, why do they need a helicopter pilot?
Yeah.
And why do they need the dogs? Do they have sleds for the dogs?
I'm assuming they've got to have dog sleds. Like, why else do they have the Huskies down there? Because those are
dog sled, right?
Yeah, dogs.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then they got a sled, and then they got like they got to have multiple sleds, and they got the tractor. I feel like they could have gotten out of there pretty easily, but I suppose you don't want to leave whatever it is, the thing, behind to do whatever.
Well, that was it. Like, you look at Bailey at Wilford Brimley, and he's looking at the assimilation model on his computer, and it says in like 27,000 hours it would have the entire world assimilated, which is like a little over 3 years. I did the math on it.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's it. Like, it's, at first it's kind of like, well, we got to figure out what's going on, or, we need to save ourselves. And then it gets to the point where it's like, no, if this thing gets out, like, everybody's dead. Like,
At what point do you think he became assimilated?
Bailey?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I've made a list of what I think the assimilation order is.
Okay.
If you bear with me for a moment here.
Sure.
Okay, so the first one I think was Norris, the guy that has his chest open up and everything when he's... Because...
Kind of obvious, but go on.
The dog goes over to Benning's door and stops, and then goes into the other room, and you see the silhouette. But a fun fact, the silhouette was... John Carpenter got a crew member to be the silhouette, so it's none of the cast, so it makes it a little more ambiguous who it is. But at that point, I think it's Norris. And then the torn clothes that Knowles finds in the kitchen, he's like, who threw the door? I think that's Palmer, so I think it was Norris, then Palmer. And then, obviously, we see Bennings. He gets assimilated, which, that's a nuts scene where he's like out there and they're surrounding him and he's turning, and I love the way that shot where McGreedy throws the flare on him and he just goes up, and then the scream that he makes, it's like almost metallic. It's it's nuts. And then after that, I believe it's Blair, and then I can't remember what his name is. There's the one guy that goes out and they find his body burned. So he was never assimilated. I think maybe Palmer got to him, because that's after they'd all separated. And then they say like maybe he burned himself so he wouldn't get turned or something like that. Doc, this one's odd to me. Doc his arms were torn off. Like, he was clearly now... his cells, but they never actually burn his body. So to me, that's like, maybe they could do a sequel where he's, because they do have a video game that they came out with, like, for Xbox, that's supposed to be a sequel to this that I'd be curious to play. And then Clark dies because McGreedy shoots him in the head, but he was never assimilated. So then Windows, clearly Palmer bites him on the head. He starts to turn. They burn him. Then Gary because I think him and Knowles get assimilated there at the end when they're down in the bunker.
Yeah, I think we see that. Pretty
And
clear.
then, Blair. So I put Blair on there. I think after Bennings and Palmer turned, Blair was out in the tool shed. Somebody was bringing him food, and I think it was either Norris or Palmer that brings him the food, and I believe they contaminated the food, so he gets assimilated while he's out there, and then clearly starts digging underneath the tool shed and building everything.
Was he building like an escape pod, or
I think so. Yeah,
like a
because
spaceship
it
to
looks
fly back
similar
home?
to the large one that they find.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could have been a long distance travel vehicle. That had to
Yes.
have been just to get out of the cold.
Yes.
Which the spaceship, in the very beginning, the spaceship's coming up, and it's approaching Earth, and they just decided, you know what? Let's go up to didn't even take a minute to assess the planet that they're about to try and take over. They were like, you know what? We're just going to go for it, and they just happened to land in probably the harshest environment, especially for themselves. Like if they would have landed in any state in the United States south of Canada, they would have been perfectly fine. They would have this movie would have just been like about like this out of control virus and people trying to survive it.
Yep.
Not a crew defending the planet from it, because
however,
it would have gone out of control.
they say when they're down there, which this is something else. When they went, so I believe it's Gary. He's like the sheriff in town, with the revolver or whatever. Him and Norris and McGreedy go and they find the actual
The ship.
spaceship.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think Norris is the thing, but he doesn't want to give himself away yet. And he's down there with McGreedy, and McGreedy's like, how long do you think this thing's been here? And he's like, probably 100,000 years. So, like, if it landed down there 100,000 years before, like, civilization wouldn't have been there anyway. Even if it would have landed, further up.
But other animals.
Climate. Yeah, I guess that's true too. Yeah.
Which would have given no chance for civilization.
Yeah.
Cavemen aren't taking those things down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Gotta discover fire first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right.
But I don't know. To me, what I love most about this movie is just it's the ambiguity of it, but it's the absolute paranoia that ensues once people start they're turning on each other. You don't know who's assimilated and who's not, and it's like I can't imagine being in that situation of like not knowing if the person that you've known because like Gary talks about after Bennings changes, he's like, I've known Bennings for 9 years. Mm-hmm. That's the true, almost the true villain of it is the people, not the thing. They're almost equally as villainous in this, and it's just purely from a standpoint of survival, not anything malicious. Like the thing is out there to, I don't know, what's the end game of this thing? Like, say it assimilates the people, and then like it gets into society and it starts assimilating, across the globe. 3 years later, it's assimilated every life form on Earth. What's its purpose? What's its goal? Yeah,
it has no goal, has no purpose.
I mean, maybe it's maybe
it's just a virus. Viruses don't care; they just replicate until the host is dead.
And see, I was going to say that, but then I'm thinking like, well, the ship that it comes in on
points to intelligence.
Yes, so like what? And I can understand. Like I can take it if they're telling me the ship crash landed down there, like something malfunctioned. And that's just where it landed. Fine. I can get that. I can buy that. But yeah, what is the end game on it? I don't know. Like I think in the beginning it's just trying to survive. Like, at the Norwegian station I assume it gets thawed out and I've never seen the new movie or the prequel movie, but I'm assuming, if I don't know, that's the thing. I don't know what the original form of this thing looks like. But if it's terrifying, and you've got a bunch of humans around, I mean, if we see something terrifying, our first instinct is to just
shoot
kill
first,
it. Yeah,
ask questions later.
And then if the only way it can think of to survive is to just start assimilating other people and taking on their appearance and making a perfect copy of them, then it's just trying to survive. And like you're saying, we're the villain.
Yeah, that's true. It's all about perspective too.
Yeah.
Like maybe it just crash landed here and it's just trying to survive. It was like, hey, do you know how to get home? Oh, why are you shooting?
Yeah. Hey, I got to show you guys something that can bring world peace and cure famine and everything. And no, kill it.
Yeah. Kill it. I think there was a Simpsons episode like that. Yeah. All right. So how do you think, what do you think happens after the credits roll in this movie?
So
you got, McCready and Childs is left, right? Yeah.
I think, so I personally think that Childs has been assimilated.
Okay.
And the reason I think that, it's again one of those things that you have to watch this movie several times to see it. But before McCready goes outside with Knowles to get Blair, Childs is sitting, he's standing by the door. And if you look in the background, there's, I think, 4 coats hanging up. And you see that, they leave. The next time they come back in the building, the door's open. Childs is gone. And there are 3 coats hanging up there. To me, that shows that Blair got in from the basement, because they do that pan through the hallway and they kind of center on the stairway that goes into the basement. I think Blair got in and got Childs, and they say that if his, when it assimilates people, it tears their clothes. So so then once it was assimilated, it grabbed another one of those coats and put it on, and then goes out. So then at the end, Childs doesn't have any breath. You don't see his breath. You see McCready's breath going. And then McCready, knowing that you're not supposed to share, things, because they talk about earlier, we should prepare our own food and eat out of cans, or whatever. He gives the bottle to Childs of the whiskey, and Childs drinks it. And then he kind of laughs. So I think that. So I've heard theories where people think that McCready actually put kerosene in there, and Childs drinks it and is not affected by it, so that's why McCready laughs. But I think it could be they know they're not supposed to drink after each other. He hands it to Childs. Well, if it's the thing, it may not know that. Although it's supposed to be the perfect copy, so I don't know. But
yeah. So does it retain memories and everything after it makes the copy?
It's got to, now that I'm thinking about it, right? If it's the perfect copy, you're not going to know the difference, so it has to be able to have the memories.
I suppose so, yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I'd like to know. I mean, maybe the prequel is worth watching just to answer some questions, because now I have questions. And that's what, that's we were talking about that in the beginning, about how that's one thing that makes a good horror movie is not having all the answers, but by the end I would like to start getting a few answers.
Yeah.
And this definitely raised some questions, and I want to go into getting some answers for sure, so I may go back and watch it. Man, my list is growing long of things I need to go back and watch now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I don't know. What did you think at the ending of it? Or were you just oh, that's a interesting ending?
I kind of, so they're both sitting there, and then credits roll, right? And it was a little abrupt, I'll say. And so whenever the credits rolled, I was like, oh, that's it. It's over. And I've been trained, so for half a second I thought, oh, maybe there's a post-credit scene. I was like, no. This is a movie in 1982. There is no post-credit scene. They did not do that back then. I think maybe one did back then, but it was a outlier. And anyway, so I was like, well, I guess that was the end of the movie. I don't know what to think. I have questions. I don't have answers for. And now, like, I guess they survived. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. And my initial thought was, well, let me look up and see if there's like a sequel movie. That's where we came across the prequel, but no sequel movie, which I have to say I am surprised that of all the things that we've had rebooted and sequelized and everything over the years, I'm surprised this one never did.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess that's maybe what they were trying to do with the prequel, is get interest going back again, and then they could come back and do a proper sequel for it, or redo the original one with a sequel, or I don't know. But yeah, I was just kind of like, oh, well, I guess that's the end of the movie, and that's that. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where it left me.
I like a good cliffhanger. And again, there's another thing that I just love about the movie. It's so open-ended. Like, was Childs the thing? Was McGreedy the thing at the end?
Yeah.
Or were neither one of them the thing?
Don't know.
We don't know.
I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
And it just leaves it like that.
Yeah.
And it stirs so much discussion. And I don't know. I love it. I love this movie. It's my favorite horror movie, and it's fun. It's fun to watch.
All right.
One of my favorite scenes is when they're doing the blood test.
Yeah.
And he's checking everybody, and he gets Palmer's, and you see Palmer's face. He's just like, kind of like, okay, I know it's coming.
Yeah.
And it does, the blood shoots up, and then Palmer, like, the tentacles start coming out. Gary and Childs are tied up next to this thing.
Tied next to them.
And it's their reaction, like, to me, it's humorous, but, like, they're just like, get away. But then I'm, like, thinking, like, the just pure terror you would have if you're tied up next to this thing. You cannot get away, especially Gary, because Gary is like, he's right beside it.
Yeah.
It's just,
you're lucky that it didn't, they're lucky that he didn't just like turn to them and try and assimilate them right away, or even like while they're tied to the chair, because like it's just like a tentacle thing. Slip a tentacle out the back and maybe get him in the back of the neck or something. Try and do it all sneakily, but I guess maybe it's not that sneakily of an assimilation, because it seems like it's a whole process, which the assimilation process I couldn't really quite make heads or tails out of, like how that works. Throughout the movie, it seemed like it kind of changed. Like maybe it was an evolving thing. But I don't know. I do like how, like, right after that scene, Gary, they complete the test, and Gary's like, "Good, now can you get me out of this effing chair?"
But he didn't say it that nicely though. Like he starts off talking very pleasant, and then by the end of that that little monologue, he's like, "Get me out of the chair."
Which I would agree with. Yeah,
I mean, he's been trying to prove he's not assimilated the whole time. No one believes him, which I get. Like, there's only two people that had keys to the blood supply, which I don't know. I need to go back and watch some theories on it. I can't remember. I'm curious how they lifted that key because it had to either be Palmer or Norris that lifted the key to go and destroy the blood supplies.
Well, did they say that they used the key to get in, or maybe they just broke the lock?
No, they said the lock was still intact. It had been opened up, the blood supply had been destroyed, and then it was relocked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know. Like, this thing's sneaky. It's got, like, the whole... I go back to the tentacles. Like, I feel like it could have probably slipped in there some way and did its damage and slipped back out.
Yeah.
I mean, if it can assimilate any living organism, who's to say it didn't, like, assimilate a flea or something small and,
That's
like,
true.
get in and...
Yeah.
slit the bags open or something,
Yeah.
or whatever.
I don't
And then
know.
at that point, you could just assimilate the blood, which is a living organism, and then
Yeah.
I don't know, take out the other one somehow.
Yeah.
But then there'd be like a little thing running around in there, I imagine, because it's not like it's going to go on a suicide mission. These things are all about survival. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it necessarily had to lift the key, though. I feel like it probably could have gone in some other way. Life finds a way.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff Goldblum.
Well, I got no more thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't either. It's one of those movies that like I said, the more I watch it, the more I'm picking up on things.
All right.
Just because once you know what happens and you know who is the thing and who isn't, or who's going to become the thing, you can kind of like look at it, from a different lens and be like, okay, this is where they were changed, or whatever. But it never gets old for me. Never gets old. I just think it's so good. And this is going to be another Burbs movie for you, I can tell.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just I think it's really
I
good.
enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
like I said, I don't think I'm going to go back and watch it. Like it takes a lot for me to go back and watch a movie now, especially now. Like
Yeah.
if this was 20 years ago, I'd probably go back and watch it a few times for sure. But now, like it takes a good amount for me to go back and watch a movie.
Yeah.
It's got to be compelling enough.
Yeah.
I see my kids now, and they'll watch movies like my daughter is really into Wicked right now, and she's seen it at least 5 or 6 times now.
Wow.
And like twice in the theaters, and then we got it when it came out on home video, and she's seen it I don't know how many times since then. I know a couple times with my daughter or my wife, and so they get to do that, and that's great. But I don't have that kind of time anymore. So yeah, I get a little more choosy with the ones that we watch.
Yeah.
It's got to be worth it for me. And
right.
this one was fun. But yeah, like a rewatch. If somebody's watching it, I'll sit down and definitely tune in with them. But yeah, so yeah, I tried to watch my son Bruce. He wants to watch horror movies. I think he likes the idea of them, but he's 13. He's not quite old enough to watch a lot of them. And so I told him I was going to be watching this one, asked him if he wanted to watch it with me, and he said, yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. We'll do that. So I go to start watching this movie, and he comes in with me, and he's sitting there watching it with me. You know, like I talked about at the beginning, it was very slow with the whole dog chase and everything. So he got just past where he got to, I think, where they were going over to the Norwegian base camp. Like they didn't make it to the Norwegian base camp, but they were on their way. And he gets up and he goes, you know what? Just call me or send me a text message whenever it gets to the good part of the movie, and I'll come back in and watch it. And I was like, buddy, this is the first time I've ever seen this movie. I don't know what the good part is. For all I know, it's this part right now. So, you may want to hang out if you want to watch it. And he just kind of slowly backed out of the room and was like, okay, he's done. So
I've noticed this is a recurring theme with him.
Yes. he has he really wants to see these things, but he just they're a much slower pace at this time, and I think the younger generation it loses that younger generation. It's they're not being handed everything right away, and they have to kind of wait for it a little bit, and I feel like you lose that audience for now. I think that's something that he'll also grow out of a little bit. I could see how maybe at his age, I don't know, we didn't have a whole lot of options back then. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if there was a time in my life where this would have been too boring for me. Because, like growing up, we didn't have Netflix, we didn't have on-demand, we didn't have any of that stuff. So it was really like your on-demand was like you got HBO and it was whatever was on at that time is what you got to watch. And if you had HBO or something like that, then you got like movies like this. You got more than just like your standard broadcast stuff. Or you go to the video store and rent a movie and bring it back and watch it. But your parents had a little bit of control over that, so you oftentimes didn't get to rent all the movies you wanted to watch.
Yep.
Or you'd hope to make friends with the kid down the street whose parents didn't care as much about what he watched, so you guys got to watch some of the more edgier stuff, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know that we never had that abundance of choice, which I feel like is something that suffers now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I sit down and I go to watch something, and if I don't know exactly what I want to watch, I waste a lot of time scrolling around trying to find something.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
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 And I can't imagine if that's like your only experience with watching a movie is like this overabundance of choice. Yeah, you're going to get bored with things pretty quick. Like, it's going to take a lot to grab your attention, or you're going to have to know what you want to go in to watch.
Yep.
With the expectation of, I'm going to watch this. But you've also got the out of, I can just stop watching this now and go watch something else.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that kind of affects the experience in that negative way, is that they can just opt out and go bounce onto something else if they wanted to. But yeah, so
I agree with you. Like, and I feel like to me, that was something. I think that's why when we were growing up, we watched the same things over and over again, or we played the same video games over and over again. Because like now, you know, like, you were like now we've got, you know, for video games we've got Game Pass, or we've got PlayStation Plus, or whatever it is, and you've got, you know, basically Netflix for video games, and you've got whatever you want to play. But you know, back then it was like you had 3 games, and if you want to play a game, you're going to go back and play what you've already beat, or you're going to borrow a friend's,
a new way to play it.
You know, or, you know,
trade.
You only have, you know, 10 movies that you can watch at home, so you're going to rewatch them over and over again. And it doesn't matter if there's a, you know, a boring, like the first 30 minutes are slow, you're bored, so you're going to watch it.
Yeah, and I gotta say though, of all the times that we've been sitting around the house looking through the library of all the movies on the shelf, all the VHSs, trying to pick what you wanted to watch, I don't think at any point I was ever bored enough or said, you know what, I've seen these other movies enough times that I'm going to watch Casablanca, or I'm going to watch even The Wizard of Oz, or, you know, like one of these like older movies. Yeah. Just that one I've never seen it. I don't think I'll ever will.
It is something that my wife and my kids poke fun at me about, because that is a movie that scares me, and it's because of the way it's shot with the color palette. It's not the content of the movie; it's the color palette.
I thought he was talking about Gone with the Wind.
Oh no!
The other one.
No, The Wizard of Oz. Okay. You know, it's Gone with the Wind. It's the color palette. Yeah, it's the color palette on Wizard of Oz. It's those bright pastel colors that just creeps me out. It's that old Technicolor look that I don't like. But I have watched Casablanca. It was okay. Like, I'll go through spurts where I like watching old movies because I want to experience them and, you know, see what's the hype on this. I will never watch Casablanca again. I don't feel like it's something I need to watch again. Gone with the Wind, I've watched probably twice.
It's 2 more than me.
Yeah, it's long, and I don't feel like I ever really need to watch that one again. And, you know, I don't know. I think I watched it once for myself, and then I watched it once with my wife, I think. So, you know, that was that. But yeah, I like going back and watching older movies that I haven't seen, just because I want to
experience it at least once, right? Yeah, I guess there's a couple of them where I've kind of felt that way. Like, I need to go back and watch, more so because, like, it's hyped up as such great movies that I'm like, it can't be that good. I gotta go back and watch it. Although I may be tainting my own viewing experience with that attitude, so I need to wait till my attitude's a little bit better before I go and watch them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I at some point I need to watch Citizen Kane, and we'll have to do it for the show and talk about it. But like, it cannot be the greatest movie ever made.
That's what I keep saying. That cannot be the greatest movie ever made. I know, but I don't know that I can watch it without that attitude affecting my viewing of it. You know, like I'm going to come into it with that attitude, and I'm going to expect it, and then self-fulfilling prophecy and all that. But that's kind of one of the movies that started this for me. This whole podcast thing is going back and watching movies that I've never seen before that I've always been told I should see. And that's one of them. It was kind of the big one because it was the one that everybody claims to be the greatest movie ever made, which is I got in one of my first long Twitter argument with somebody was about that being the greatest movie ever made, and they created a list of they had posted a list of top 5 movies or top 5 greatest movies ever made or something like that, and that was at the top of the list. And I just commented about how the whole list looked like something that was made by a recent film major student. Like they were just textbook choices, and it did not feel like a genuine opinion. And we went back and forth a while on that, and I don't have a top 5. I don't have a definitive top 5 because I don't feel like you can have a definitive top 5 favorite movies. I feel like it's something that changes as you age.
It's a fluid
and
thing.
Even B, with your mood at the time. Like right now, if I was to rattle off the top 5 movies, it'd be 5 movies that I wanted to see or rewatch at this point. And that's all it really is. It's the top 5 movies it's the 5 movies that you're most looking forward to rewatching next. And that's what I feel like that's what that's why you can't have an all-time top 5. But anyways, shall we go on to do we have any comments this week?
No comments this week.
No comments.
I checked again before we got on here and started to chat. So I have not seen any. Get on there. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about The Thing, or Karate Kid, or
any of these,
whatever it is that we've
something
done.
that we should watch that maybe we're missing. We'll take suggestions. Absolutely. We've gotten a couple of them. They're on our list.
Tell us why The Thing is the greatest horror movie of all time. And if you tell us it's not, you're wrong. But no, I'm kidding.
Bring an argument.
This line here that's on the screen, this side is the Thing is the greatest horror movie of all time. This side over here is the wrong side to be on. So that's hopefully when this comes out in the wash, we're still in the same positions. Otherwise, I'm going to be pointing to the thumbnails on the side of the screen.
No, you're pointing the right way. You're always on the same side.
Okay.
All right. Let me introduce you to our icebreaker for next week. All right, here's my icebreaker for next week. Give you a whole week to think about it. I want. This feels like a simple question, but I want thoughtful answers here. Okay. All right.
Okay. Can you make it as long as I make mine?
Oh no, mine's really simple. I came prepared.
Okay.
What is your favorite cereal growing up and now?
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So, like I said,
I'll be laying in bed losing sleep at night trying to think of what this is.
So, your favorite cereal growing up and your favorite cereal now.
All right.
With that, that's our podcast. This podcast takes tokens. Leave us a comment, leave us a review, drop something down below, like, subscribe, all that. That's all fun stuff. Remember, sharing is caring. Be kind, rewind. We'll see y'all next week.
See y'all later. This Podcast Takes Tokens is a Clay Street production.